show you guys some fingerings that can help you transition from the higher register into the Altissimo. And I haven't really done this before. Basically, I just showed you guys some fingerings and you just kind of took it from there. But we're gonna basically make this how to get started with Altissimo for tenor saxophone. So I had a lot of people ask me to do this, so I'm gonna put this out for you now. So let's get started. All right, so in short, there are two reasons why it's difficult for you to be able to play Altissimo, because every note on a saxophone is an overtone. And from day one, we started to develop a type of progression in our playing and a type of logic with what we should do with our airspeed and with our embouchure when we're playing from the low end of the horn to the high end of the horn. So when we play a low B flat, we usually relax our embouchure, and as we move up through the horn, we tighten our embouchure a bit. And this is where everything goes wrong, because we have a magic high note button called an octave key, and no other instrument really has it the same way a saxophone does. Clarinet has a register key, oboe has an octave key, but it doesn't quite do it the same way that a saxophone does. And because of that, the saxophone has always been doing all the heavy lifting. You think about a flute player, they don't have that. They just have to do it all with their embouchure and their airspeed. Every brass player out there, from day one, if it's not set right, they're not playing the right note. Us, we get almost all the heavy lifting done for us. So now we've essentially run out of octave key help, and then we hit a brick wall, and it's a big one with a tenor more so than an alto, because this instrument is offset in this kind of weird way where the back pressure is different. But at any rate, I want to show you guys some. For this lesson, I'm going to give you basically the cliff notes or some cheats on how to work your way through some overtones, because the real problems start at the palm keys. Why? The palm keys don't overblow the same way that the rest of the saxophone does, which is why we don't use the palm keys in the lower register, because the intonation gets catastrophic. But one of the principles behind producing overtones is that you're not just playing one note. Any one note that you're playing on a saxophone, you're actually producing a whole bunch of other notes that you can't hear because the main note is much louder. However, there is this blend that happens, and you can hear it in the tone and in the timbre. It's a real subtle thing when you go from one saxophone to another and those overtones are closer in tune. To you, it'll just sound better. It'll sound fuller, etc. But let's skip to it. The first one that I'm going to show you is going to be the one that is, in my opinion, the easiest to understand and to get you started, which is palm D. So in the lower register, if you start using the palm D instead of middle D, it's going to sound empty and flat. And if you were to use the rest of the palm keys instead of the middle notes, it's going to sound catastrophic. But when you play the palm keys in the upper register, you're still sounding those notes below it. So if your palm keys sound weak and horrible, it's a physics problem. So I'm going to show you a way to get around that by showing you some alternate fingerings for the palm keys in the palm key register. And by doing so, in order to do it properly, you have to put your embouchure and your airspeed in the right position in order to get these notes to come out. And you're going to hear a phenomenal difference in your tone. And plus, since you're already in the lower part of the horn using Altissimo techniques, when you go to Altissimo, it's like butter. It's a regular part of the horn, and that's what I've been saying the whole time. You should be playing Altissimo like it's the regular part of the horn. So let's get to palm D. What's up, everybody? I just want to make this video and put it in between the other video, because going back and listening to it, the compressor that's on this camera is actually balancing everything out, which works great when I go from talking to playing the saxophone, but showing you the subtle differences between the different fingerings and the sound that it produces. The camera's compressing all of it and making it all sound the same. So I highly encourage you to have your saxophone there while you're with the video and try it out, because A lot of it is just kind of getting balanced out, which isn't really what's happening. All right, so an alternate fingering for palm D so you can play better altissimo. All right, so this one is the freakishly easiest one. So you just finger what I like to call a flute F sharp. Let me lower this down a little bit so you can see. Flute F sharp is like 1, 2, 3, and 6. All right, don't worry about the E flat key like you do on flute, but whenever I talk about this on saxophone, when I say flute F sharp, it's 1, 2, 3, and 6. And also the palm D. So it's just like you're playing palm D anyway, but you just add 1, 2, 3, and 6. See if you can hear the difference. You can hear how the covered one is a little sharper. You can adjust your embouchure in order to get it in tune with whatever it is that you need to play it with. So I'll do that one more time. Just palm D by itself. That palm, that covered one is so huge. You're really using the entire length of the saxophone. It's like you're connecting the top of the saxophone to the bell. And once you do that, boom, it just resonates. I'll do that again. So hopefully it's not distorting too much, right? So that's palm D. So instead of playing your palm E flat, what we're gonna do is finger F sharp, just like we normally would, 1, 2, 3, and 5. And we're just gonna add our side E key. So we got palm E flat, alternate fingering, one of the beautiful things about this fingering is that you can play it like quadruple pianissimo also. Palm E flat, covered, it takes on this really light, airy quality. I use these fingerings all the time. So let's move. We get to E natural. I'm gonna skip E natural and I'm gonna skip F, and then I'm gonna go for F sharp. Now I have a high F sharp key on my horn. For this fingering, it won't really matter, but I'm not really treating a high F sharp like it's an altissimo note. So here's the fingering that I use for that. It is exactly 1, 3, and 4. And I almost always add this E flat key, but you don't have to in order to hit this note. I always do, but the way I explain it is it's just like F, 1, 2, 3, and 4 with the 2 finger up. I call this a split F. Split means any fingering with the 2 finger up in the terminology that I've created. So split F in order to play high F sharp, which is an alternate fingering for your palm F sharp. And again, I add this E flat key because I just do, and I think it sounds better. So here's your palm F sharp. Notice this horrible position I have to put my left hand in to play all 3 of these, to press all 3 of the palm keys. So an alternate, just 1, 3, and 4. I'll go back and forth between the E flat key so you can hear the difference between that. Right, so I usually have the E flat key, but you can hear a huge difference in the sound. So these alternate fingerings that I'm showing you, it's like connecting the front of the horn to the bell of the instrument. That's going to be a big thing that I'm talking about, getting the bell to resonate the sound out to the atmosphere, to getting the sound that's inside the horn out, is why we have a bell that is almost the size of the entire saxophone. No other woodwind instrument has that. So if we have a bell like that, we need to learn how to use. Let's go to palm F. This fingering is exactly like E, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but you lift the 3 finger, right? So it's 1, 2, 4, and 5 in order to play this F. So here's palm F. Here's the alternate fingering F. Right? That difference is just 1, 2, 4, and 5. All right, so let's move on to palm E. If you only know how to play this note, you can essentially just learn all the other altissimo notes on this instrument. It tells you you got your mouthpiece and your reeds and all that stuff where it's supposed to be if you're hitting that note with this alternate fingering. If you know a little bit about the overtone series, it should go low B flat, middle B flat, middle F, high B flat. Playing our low E flat, alto saxophone plays a low B flat. So if everything worked perfectly, we should be producing the same notes as we overblow, but we don't, because there's all this extra saxophone that's kind of getting in the way. With an alto, it all makes sense because you're using the whole length of that instrument. The whole reason why I set that up is because it goes catastrophically out of tune. All right, I'll play an overtone series off a low B flat. So we get low B flat, middle B flat, F, B flat. Piece of cake. Now let me do that same trick off a low E flat. Right? That top note becomes catastrophically sharp. In fact, it's so sharp, it's actually a really in tune E natural. That's the substitute fingering that we use for E natural. So overblowing that E flat produces an E natural. That's the fingering that I use. That one fingering there helped me play so many different altissimo notes on tenor saxophone, because once I dialed that in, I was like, wow, I need to do that for everything else. So let's try it. I'll go from E to A. So essentially, using these alternate fingerings stops us from clipping the mouthpiece with too much embouchure pressure, which is what we wind up doing when we play the palm keys, because that's how we learn to play the saxophone from the beginning. So low notes, relaxed embouchure, high notes, we just wind up using too much embouchure pressure. And playing altissimo on any saxophone is all about releasing the pressure and increasing the airspeed. So I like to think 99% airspeed, 1% embouchure pressure. Besides, if you're using all this embouchure pressure, you're just gonna get tired anyway. So that's what I got for you.